Rewarding or unrewarding Shadowlands gearing experience?
Guys, come with me. I found something more rewarding than M+.
Oh, what is it? Is it going to go all the way around? Oh, wow. Wow. That's cool.
Today we're talking about gear, and this is always going to rub people the wrong way, because no matter what happens, nobody's going to be happy. But one thing's to say, gear is causing problems in the Shadowlands, and not unexpectedly so. It was one of the biggest changes coming in, and we made people aware of it, yet now we're in the reality, people are starting to find it to be very, very unrewarding to do certain things, and that's causing them to simply not do those things. Blizzard...
Is that the way you guys feel? Like, do you feel like it's rewarding to do Mythic Plus? You know what I think they should do with Mythic Plus? Is they should just make it give more anima. Like, that's one thing they should just do immediately. Like, anima, it doesn't matter. Like, just let people do anima, get anima capped with Mythic Plus.
Went out of their way this time to make sure certain things couldn't happen. They intentionally dropped the item level of Mythic Plus so that heroic raiders could not trade any gear amongst themselves.
Good.
They didn't want people anymore to be able to gear up via Mythic Plus,
Good.
then go into raiding and be able to pass certain items around.
Good.
They wanted to reduce the amount of items you get. They then
That the rating should give you better gear than Mythic Plus. I do think that it should scale higher, though. This is what I don't agree with. I think that Mythic Plus scales too low. Like it's a 14 or a 15. Like, people are going to be doing 25s. Like, you should be able to get something better at like an 18 or a 20 or something like that.
and nerfed the amount of loot that raids dropped after the game went live in order to, once again, reduce the amount of items you guys can get.
Well, to be fair with what Preach is saying, they did not nerf it. It was wrong at the beginning. Because they clearly stated that the bosses would drop a certain amount of loot, and you could extrapolate from that how much loot they would probably drop in a 30-man. And Blizzard changed that because that wasn't what the intention was.
Then, during the World First race, which finally concluded, we saw that heroic split raiding was the absolute forefront of a lot of plays that those guilds did.
Of course.
Organizing individual runs for one singular player and buying in so many traders to try and ensure that that person could get those items.
So what Pieces was doing whenever they were... we interviewed this guy in Pieces, and he said that what they were doing on Heroic Denathrius is they would invite somebody into the raid, and if the person could trade a Heroic Denathrius weapon, they would give them 1,000,000 gold to do it. They were literally paying people 1,000,000 gold for Heroic Denathrius weapons. Yeah, Batsu. Yeah, exactly, dude. That was one of the funniest fucking things, man.
So from all of this, what we can say is if you are progress-minded or you care about your character, gear is more important than ever. Every time you get an upgrade, it's tangible. You do feel it. And I will say honestly, as a pro to the change to this system, I care what bosses drop again. I'm interested to see when I click that loot.
Same and true.
I haven't felt that way in a very long time. However, many other areas are, of course, deeply, deeply hurt, especially if you are on the more casual side. Mythic Plus has never felt as unrewarding as it does now. It's actually painful. Certainly if you are grinding, say, 14s and 15s to try and get the best possible items, some of those runs are really, really hard. And if you are doing something like your one Mythic Plus a week that you have time for because of your outside obligations, you might end up with 35 anima. Now, Blizzard knew this. They absolutely...
35 anima. Like, why did they make it drop 35? Like, it's such an easy solution. You just make it drop more anima. It's just that simple. You make it to where instead of dropping 35, it drops 35 plus 35 for each keystone level that you do. So if you do a keystone 10, it drops 350. If you do a keystone 20, it drops 700. Like, it's so easy to solve that. That's a lot. Who cares? Like, what are people going to do if they get a lot of anima? Oh my god, this guy's got 30,000 anima. He's breaking the game. He's able to do the Ember Court earlier. What the fuck? Oh my god. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? Doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? Just let them do what they want to do.
knew this, which is why the Great Vault was such a mystery to them, I think.
Yeah.
We talked about it in a couple of videos during the alpha and the beta, is that the Great Vault potentially could have offset absolutely everything. By providing players with a choice of up to 9 different items, it was technically possible that a player within 9 weeks could do 1 Mythic Plus or do a bit of a raid boss and then get absolutely bis gear from that very, very quickly. And I'm not talking about close to bis or Titan Forge bis where it was kind of like, well, there's still room for improvement. They could get absolutely idyllic items very, very...
Actually, Preach, Denathrius and Stone Generals drop 233 gear as a baseline on Mythic, so it would be impossible for you to actually be able to get bis without doing them in the raid. But other than that, he's right.
Quickly because they were presented with so much choice. And I think Blizzard was terrified. They were terrified that the Great Vault could provide such rewards, meaning players were able to just be done with their characters very quickly through their own means, and therefore everything else had to be dropped around it. Some of it maliciously, which I do believe the Heroic and Mythic Plus item level changes were done maliciously. Has that paid off?
Shit.
Depends who you are. RNG is RNG. Some people, like me, did get their weapon from the Great Vault. However...
Dude, me too. Me too from the future. After this, I'm going to get my Great Vault. Like, that's actually true. Like, I'm going to 100% do that. Give me a weapon. Please give me a PvP weapon. It's going to be 233, man. Like, I got up to fucking, like, 2,600 rating. 25 to 2550 something. Like, I'm ready for my fucking sword.
People getting 9 choices every week have managed to get things that the best item in there duplicates where their legendary is and therefore is useless.
Oh my god.
The same sort of items they already have appear in there.
Look, there's no reaction at all. He's just like this. That's it. Which is a... What the fuck, man?
And some of them have just had no good, worthwhile rewards from the Great Vault at all. And that was always going to be the case with a still RNG-based system.
Yeah.
But that's not my big issue here. I actually think Blizzard is toying around with gear right now. And I do believe over the course of the Shadowlands, it's going to change. This is going to be one of the things that they're going to be tweaking around. Maybe we should add another item to M+. Please, God.
No, don't add another item to M+. Add a currency to M+, and add a vendor that you can use that currency to buy gear at. You know? Like how it used to be. For years. Like, just add a badge vendor. Like, I don't want more random gear. Like, I don't want that. I want a badge vendor. So you can work towards something. So the reason why that would be good is because it would give people, even if you didn't get anything in your Mythic Plus dungeon, you still got something out of it. It was the same reason why they had Artifact Power and, what was the other one? Azerite Power. It's because even whenever you got nothing out of a dungeon, you still got something out of it. That is a good thing. And in Burning Crusade dungeons, you would still at least get your 2 badges of valor, badges of justice, and you could use enough of them to buy something at the vendor. I don't know why they don't just do that with Mythic Plus. Just make Mythic Plus give badges, and then, you know what they can call them? They could call them badges of, how about badges of justice? How about call them the same thing that you called them 15 years ago? How about just do that? Literally call them justice badges of anima. I like that. Soul badges. It's an even better idea. And then have a vendor that you can buy items from if you do a lot of Mythic Plus. But make it to where you can maybe only get so many badges per week or something like that, to where you can't just completely gear out in a week. So there's at least some degree of progression that you can make that's deterministic, and it doesn't necessarily cannibalize any of the other content in the game. Make it to where you can get like 1, 2, 13 like every other week or something like that. It's not a big deal. Game doesn't need a new system. You're right. That's why we're going to use the old one.
Do that because I'll be honest with you guys, and I don't know how you guys feel. I play with some wonderful, wonderful players of this game, and when they suggest, does anybody want to go for an M+ spam to get some gear? Now, in this week, not really. I kind of just want to get the weekly done and then ease off a little bit.
Exactly.
35 anima. Some of these runs are costing thousands of gold. If you're doing some of the harder runs where you're pushing potions and things like that,
Jesus,
you're paying maybe up to 6,000 to 7,000 gold for a run. That can happen.
Holy fuck.
And you're getting 35 anima out of it? Not so much. Now, we'll come back to that, because there is a simple way to solve it. And as I said, I think Blizzard is kind of toying around with what the reaction is. Some people are saying it's based on Classic. And this is why...
Is that real and true? Is that true and real? Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking awful, dude. You know what's really awful? Is McConnell and I, we talked about this last night. We need to do Mythic Plus soon, because we have to get them out. Like, we have to go for the 15s and get them out. So, like, we're going to have to spend that money.
I do think Blizzard missed a trick. In Classic, raid or die was the mantra. Now, what people mean by raid or die is if you really want to upgrade your character, you need to raid. That's the only way you can get it done. Outside of that, there's nothing much to do. But that's not even entirely true, and a lot of Classic players will tell you this. What Blizzard did cleverly, and they learned towards the end of Classic that this is a good thing, is they gave some alternative paths to decent gearing which people could take part in outside of that organized raid environment.
Yeah, you had the PvP gear, you had crafting gear, you had 5-man dungeon gear that was okay, it was upgradable, like the heroism set and the other tier 0.5 sets. There was a lot of things that you could do in Classic to get better gear, but ultimately, yes, you had to raid if you wanted to get even close to BIS.
Shadowlands has none of that, and I think that's really where they missed a trick. We have
the legendaries. That's not entirely true. We do have the legendaries. The legendaries you're able to get, and that doesn't really matter. So you have the legendaries, and you also have that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's one item. Yeah, I guess, like, yeah, besides that, Preach is right. Yeah, it's one item.
In the environment, which I would honestly agree, we are kind of in a raid or die environment. Even if you spam Mythic Plus endlessly and get the best gear you can get from there, it's still not great. For the amount of effort and content and difficulty you're dealing with, it's not particularly rewarding. It's not. Do
you want to hear a hot take from me? Who wants to hear a hot take? Does anybody want to get mad in chat? Any preemptive Malders? I think the only way to get really good gear should be raiding or high-level PvP. That's what I think. That's what I think. Not arenas, though. Especially arenas.
Would rather be heroic raiding or mythic raiding. It's as simple as that. That's just the nature of how it is right now. You can gear up from your Great Vault, but that's a one-and-done dopamine hit on a reset day.
Ooh,
it's not particularly fun to do so. What can you do outside of M+ and raiding? Well, you can PvP.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get the good stuff until you get very, very good at it. Now, the argument is always going to exist that the...
I mean, you can get 20... I think is 2100... I don't know. I think especially in terms of, like, something that you can do pretty much by yourself or with, like, 1 or 2 other people without having, like, a dedicated time. Like, 2100 is 226. Like, that's like Mythic raid level, man. Like, the only thing you get for 2.4 is the elite weapon. Like, you don't get anything else for 2.4. That's the only thing that you get out of it in terms of 2100's hard. Is it that much harder? So, do you think 2100 is comparable to a Mythic raid? I think 1800 is easier than a Mythic raid, 100%. I think 2100 is maybe a little bit harder than a Mythic raid. And I think also 2100 being a little bit harder than a Mythic raid is good because it makes organizing things and playing with more people a easier solution. And the goal for an MMO should always be, not always, right? But it should be to some degree to make people want to play with each other. So I'm saying, Booster Glad, no, here's the thing. Like, I've had, listen, I've got PvP achievements from before you guys were born. Okay? I've had PvP achievements before you guys were born. Whenever you were sitting in there watching Cars in your fucking high chairs while your mom was feeding you a fucking, little juice bottle, I was in Burning Crusade getting my fucking shoulders in Season 3. Yeah, back in my day, it was different, okay? I used to be really good at the game. That was a long time ago. But I used to be. And you know what? If you suck, that's fine. Just go do raids. Yeah, back in my... Shut up, old man. Shut the fuck up, bitch.
most difficult and highest skilled content in RPG should reward the best stuff. I happen to agree with that, but that doesn't mean that the difference between that and everyone else should be astronomical.
True.
That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I think people should be able to chase stuff as very high. Probably not to the Mythic level or to the absolute best level, but pretty close. To the point where...
Well, this is what we had back in Burning Crusade. Back in Burning Crusade, you were able, even if you did an arena team, if you did an arena team and you bought a new arena team every single week and you lost all 10 of your games, you went 0-10. In a few weeks, you could buy a piece of best in slot PvP gear. Now, I don't know if that's a good solution. I personally think that the solution that we have now is better. But if they give people a little bit more, even if they're kind of shitty, I think it could be good because it would incentivize them to play the game longer. But I don't know how they can do that and still maintain the prestige of having the higher level gear. It's bad as fuck. Well, I thought the TBC thing was good. Like back in TBC, I thought PvP was half of the game in TBC. In Burning Crusade, in Burning Crusade it was half of the game. In BFA, it was like 5% or 10% of the game.
They're not squashed by those players. I think that's a good line.
Is a tier down from the current seasons? Listen. You are only partially right. You are not completely right. I would argue this, and we could debate this, but I think that would be boring for the viewers. Yeah, we're not going to debate this. Actually, I'm going to debate this. So in Season 3, they started implementing different rating requirements for gear. And so back in Season 3, the shoulders were 2,000 rating, and the weapon was 1,850 rating. And then in Season 4, they took that system farther, and they made the weapon 2050 rating. So you have to get a rating of 2,050, and the shoulders at 2,200 rating for shoulders. And then also they had some of the other pieces of gear, like the chest piece, I believe, was at 1,600, and the helm was at 1,700. So that's only true for the second half of TBC, and it's only really true for the last season, and even that's only really true for certain slots of gear, because you could still buy all of the offset gear with honor, and that was fine as well. So thank you guys all so much for coming to my TED Talk about irrelevant information from a game that came out 15 years ago. Let's continue the video. Helmet needed rated? It needed 1,700 rating. I remember.
If you're getting squashed by somebody because they Mythic raid and you only Heroic raid, or you do Mythic Plus at the highest level, that doesn't make sense to me. A lot of those dungeons are extremely difficult.
I think if you do Heroic raids and the other guy does Mythic raids, the other guy should shit on you because he does harder content. And that's how you motivate players to do higher content. It's like, imagine if you're going around. Look, here's the thing. Let me give you an example, all right? So let's say you've got your weapon. Give me 1 second. I'm a Fury Warrior today. So you've got your weapon right here. And you have, let's see here. You get this weapon right here, and it does a pretty good amount of damage. It's really, really good. But you go up against somebody that has this one. And you know what happens whenever these two come together? I'm not going to break my fucking sword, but I think you guys can pretty much guess that this sword is going to win because it's an actual sword and not a piece of plastic that I bought at Goodwill. So here's the facts. Unless you have a disparity like this, the reason to get this sword is not going to be as good. And the game should always motivate you to go for this sword and not be okay with this one. It's a budget legendary. Yeah, it's a legendary sword.
And the same with PvP. Once you start playing at the highest levels, it gets very, very complicated, and you need to do a lot of stuff. They shouldn't be too far away if you just want to gear up and you're not quite as good as those guys. I think that's totally fair.
That's true.
We have renowned sets, which are 50 item levels below getting Mythic quality gear, and they're gated by time on doing your renown. Now, that will ease up over time, but it's still not good gear.
No.
Heroic dungeons,
Suck.
M+.
Dick.
That's it. There's nothing. There's nothing for people to chase outside of some sort of organized content. Now, I know it's an MMO, and are you being hypocritical? No. There's a line to be drawn, because I'm also not saying that things like gaining gems should give you mythic quality gear like we saw in Najatar. That was ridiculous as well. There's a line to be drawn in the middle here.
Okay.
There's some sort of fine line where players, which they could do in Classic, chasing some of those epic items down, some of the crafting you could do, especially in the Burning Crusade. Professions are woefully useless in the Shadowlands, and they shouldn't be. Chasing all
is there anything you can even do with professions? I don't even know. Like, I have no clue at all. No, there's not. Legendaries, that's it. So you just craft legendaries. Legendaries, the thing is, if they had like a couple more pieces, what if like Torghast, finishing like layer 8 of Torghast would give you like a good piece of gear or something like that? Like it would be like a one-time quest. I think that could be cool. Or something else that you could do. That'd be all right. Yeah, I mean, like what Preach is saying, like listen, I disagree that there should be a lot of solo content that you can just like progress through. And I think that it would be way better if there was more group content and you needed to do more group content. But what Preach is saying is right. He's right. There needs to be some solo content for those players to do and work towards. Now, where's the line? It's hard to say. But I would be okay with maybe like 2 other pieces of gear that you could get that are relatively good that don't necessarily require organized play. Fuck group content in the ass every day. That has a double meaning. Let's keep going.
Things down that you could do on your own if you want to and get you really good stuff. Maybe not the best stuff is worthwhile. If it takes some effort and it takes you on a different journey, that's fine. We have legendary items in the Shadowlands.
Ooh.
Now, the legendary system encapsulated within itself is really good. I like the legendary system. We're looking to start crafting off pieces if you want to. As long as you get the effect, you don't need to upgrade the item level too high, and you can put your soul ash elsewhere. The only issue with it, I would say, is the rather tedious Torghast grind. That's something I don't look forward to any week, and I love Torghast.
I like Torghast. I don't think you should have to do it twice. I think the problem with the soul ash right now is that the Torghast, if you complete 1 layer 8, you shouldn't have to do 2. You should only have to do 1 a week. I think doing 1 Torghast a week would be 1,000 times better. And it's like doing, here's a good example, right? Is like whenever you'd have to do visions. Remember back whenever you're leveling up your legendary cloak in BFA and you got to the point where you had to go from like 14 to 15 or like, 11 to 12 and you had to do like 3 or 4 visions back to back before the raid. I don't know about you guys, but that sucked. Like I hated that. I didn't want to do that at all. And I did it, right? Because it's like, it's what you got to do. But like, doing Division once was really fun. Doing Division twice was not fun. Doing Division 3 times, fuck. And so it got so boring. And what I think they should do is they should make it to where you don't have to do it twice. It's just too many times, man. Just do it once. I think once is fine. Like it. And also, you don't have to keep doing it. After you get your first legendary and you upgrade it all the way, you never have to do Torghast again if you don't want to. If you never want to swap that legendary out, fuck it. Just keep, like, why else would you ever do Torghast? So I think it's actually very well designed, except for the fact that you have to do it twice. It's too much.
Just don't like the way it's done for Soul Ash. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what can we do? What can the casual players do? Are they expected to grind M+? Because that's a big investment. They can maybe do 1, 2 a week.
Yeah.
They're hoping for the guild vault and that's it. What can they do outside of that? World quests are completely useless.
Yes.
Even when they upgrade, they're still going to be useless compared to just doing like a basic M+. That's not going to be worthwhile either. And outside of that, there is nothing. I think Blizzard really missed a trick here in providing some stuff that's open world that's not as good, but is something people could go on. I would look to the tier 0.5 quest.
You do have the world bosses. Like, you do have world bosses, but like, that's like a hit and then quit it. Like, that's a bap, and then you don't get anything, and you gotta wait till next week. It's not real content. Weekly quest for pieces? Yeah, like a weekly quest or something like that. You know how they had like the complete 4 mythic dungeons for like a piece of heroic gear or something like that? I would like to see them have questline rewards and different types of like capstone like rewards, like getting cordial with Venari or getting Torghast Layer 8, completing that, or completing your Covenant campaign. Those types of things should give you a really good piece of gear. And the reason why that would be nice is it gives casual players something they can work towards at their own pace because it's completely solo.
and good entry into Classic. When they brought them in, they were really popular.
Quickly time
they
run
boosted
quest and
people up
Torghast.
to a good,
That's a great
solid
idea.
raid level without requiring too much effort outside of it. Badges and gems, upgrade systems are probably worthy of making a return. It's probably time they did that. If we look exclusively at dungeons and PvP, where they're taking up to 9 weeks to gather a full decent set of 200 gear doing PvP, if we look to those guys are doing potentially hours and hours, and I'm sure there's some people watching right now who've done maybe 10 plus dungeons and got nothing out of it but 35 anima. Those guys need some sort of backup. If this system is to remain, they need some sort of backup where they can either go and purchase something, because...
And this is something Blizzard learned after Classic. Like, they learned this shit right after Classic. Because in Classic WoW, what happened? You would do a dungeon, you didn't get shit? Fuck you, bitch. Now there's a repair bill. And in BC, they added badges. And even in Burning... They fixed this in the first expansion. In the first expansion, they fixed this. And the fact that it's like, if you do a Mythic plus 15 and you get 35 anima power, I would be more angry about getting 35 anima power than getting 0. Like, imagine spending 2 hours in a dungeon and getting 35 anima power. It's like somebody that tips a quarter. You know what I mean? It's like you wait on a table and like the bill's $200 and they give you a tip for a quarter, and then it's a business card for their church. Because the real tip is in Jesus Christ or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, these are the kinds of things that just piss you the fuck off. And all they need to do is just make a badge vendor. That's it. Just do that. Just make the fucking badge vendor.
Even if they didn't get the drop they wanted, they still worked towards something.
Yeah.
That needs to take place. Or either the loot needs to go up in Mythic Plus, at least, so that it's worthwhile. Because right now, what I'm seeing, and I've spent hours and hours today browsing people's opinions, telling their horror stories, that they have run so many Mythic Plus dungeons and just got nothing worthwhile. And the only drop they got was the one they already had, or it was in a legendary slot, or it was just worse than what they already had in the first place.
Dude, I remember this shit back in the fucking day, dude. Like, so this is back in Old Year. And I was raiding with the boys, and I had just completed a King's Rest dungeon, and I got a 385 ring. And Mother, which is second boss in Old Year, also dropped the 385 ring. It was like Rot Scour ring or something like that. The motherfucker dropped. I looted it, and they made me trade that bitch away because I had already done Mythic Plus to get a ring already. I am still mad about that. That was probably about half of the reason why I quit the guild. I quit raiding. I remember I was like, you know what? This is horse shit. This is a fucking horse shit. I'm done. And that was it. I'd say no and leave. Well, no, I was the guild master. I can't do that. As an officer, I had to do it, but it felt terrible. And like, so yeah, it's like, imagine like McConnell and I are doing a dungeon together, and I have a really good helmet. And McConnell, let's say McConnell gets a pair of shoulders, and he doesn't trade the shoulders to me, but I get another helmet, and I trade the shoulders to McConnell. So he gets 2 pieces of gear, and I get fucking 0. I get mad.
And they're doing it over and over again. It's got bad stats. And certainly the rating is in a similar scenario as I got a neck. It was just bad stats. That was the only drop I got. I couldn't trade it to anybody. All these early problems, which are early problems and will alleviate in time, but it's still not going to be good. I'm sitting here. Gear is a problem. I'm feeling it myself. As I said, if I'm in a situation where I would rather do something else than play with my friends and do dungeons and maybe get some people some upgrades, because the chances of that happening are so ludicrously low, even if we play exceptionally well, I'm not interested. My friends aren't interested.
Yeah.
And hope is waning on what should we do here. Are we going to just be farming Heroic and Mythic forever just to get some stuff up? And when it comes to alts, sure, the game is alt-friendly. We can get our alts all caught up within a single week. We can be up to date with where our main characters are in terms of all the background stuff, besides Torghast Solash. We can do that in a week.
Which is good. That's great.
Shall we jump into Swim Plus for some fun? Is it worthwhile?
Well, you can't jump into Mythic Plus for fun because it's not fun. So, there's number one. Number two, I I don't think Mythic Plus should ever cannibalize raiding in like a repeatable way. And I think Blizzard realized this in Shadowlands. I think Mythic Plus should have a way that you can get better stuff out of it. But if you give people like a consistent thing that you can just keep doing, people are just going to do that instead of raid. And raiding just takes way more effort and time than Mythic Plus because you have to get more people together, especially for Mythic. Like, that should be the reward. Raid is very boring. I think Mythic Plus is even more boring. Who cares? Raiding sucks. Yeah, right.
Do an alt raid? Can I work on something else? And that's the feeling I'm seeing everywhere. Yeah. So it probably needs some adjustment. But I'm not putting the stake in it yet. Blizzard's trying something. They're sciencing it. They're trying to figure it all out.
Trying to do it right.
I do want to see what you guys got. Has your guild vault literally rendered nothing despite the fact that you've done so much stuff to unlock all those options? Or what is your feelings on this? Because what I'm seeing right now is obviously the people who are complaining. Perhaps there's a huge amount of you who are totally fine with the way things are. I'd love to hear from you. Bye, guys.
Okay. So, I do think they should make Mythic Plus more rewarding by giving it a badge system. I do not think Mythic Plus should ever cannibalize high-end rating. High-end rating and PvP should be the best way to get gear. I think that because Mythic Plus is a lower barrier to entry, because you can make a group with less people, and you don't need the same time commitment. If you make Mythic Plus and rating give equivalent gear, Mythic Plus will cannibalize raiding because nobody will want to do it because of the added effort involved in order to get the raid together and organize things and talk to people. It's crazy to me, someone who loved Mythic Plus, this never getting drops. I have to really keep pushing myself to keep doing something so unrewarding. I did 2 entire lockouts of Castle Nathria without getting anything. Feeling really rewarded right now. I'd like to see a token system. Get to the end of Mythic Plus and get a piece of gear. Great. No token, no drop. Okay, here's a token currency for gear and weapon purchases. So true and very real. Totally agree. Christopher, great idea. I was worried about this exact same problem. They don't want me to be done with my character. Ironic, since now I feel like I'm done with my character. Well, I think you should feel like you're done with the character. I want to feel like I'm done with my character. That way I can focus on farming mounts and not feel guilty. That's what it should be. And you could play other alts or whatever. I think Blizzard was so afraid to let you feel like you were done with your character, they would just force you into playing the game constantly. It was too much, man. It's way too fucking much. McConnell blocks Senate vote on $2,000 COVID-19 payments. Wait, so McConnell's... Jesus Christ, man. What an asshole.